Okay, guys, so the other day I was taking my wife to the airport and we're driving down the road and I noticed that fog started blowing out of the AC vents. So we're going to take a look at that. I'm pretty sure I know what the problem is. And the first thing I like to do before I even get started, now this car's been sitting overnight. I just came out here, just got started on it, have not turned the AC or anything on. I have let this temperature gauge, this thermometer, stabilize, and it's showing about 105 degrees ambient temperature inside the car. So what I like to do is compare the evaporator temperature sensor to the ambient temperature. Now you can do that with the ambient temperature sensor on the car. You can also just put a thermometer in your vents and that'll show you the actual ambient temp. So I've got the scan tool here. We're connected up to the 2013 Chevy Camaro, and we will get into this. And basically what I'm going to do is see what the evap temp sensor is showing compared to this. Now, the evaporator temperature sensor is what controls the cycling of the compressor. So if the temp sensor is reading high, the compressor may never actually shut off and start and cycle, and it'll think that it needs to keep trying to get the AC cooler and cooler and cooler, and it'll never cycle. And that's where you start freezing up your evaporator. You can get ice crystals, you can get fog blowing out of your vents. So let's get into the listen, I'm just going to go to system selection, and we're going to go straight to the HVAC module to start with. And let's see here, we're going to go to read data stream. Permissions data generally has, I'm pretty sure, yeah, there's the evap temp sensor. It's also got the high side sensor. So let's just select all these. We'll go to OK. We'll see. The car's not even running. Now let's see what this temp sensor. Okay, so the evaporator temperature sensor right now is showing 170 degrees. And you can clearly see straight up right there's right at 100 degrees. It's actually dropped a little bit. It's probably about 102 or 103 degrees. That temp sensor's right now reading way high. So let's go ahead and start it up. We will turn the AC on. I'm just going to turn it on low. You can see we're dropping in temp. And we're going to watch the scan tool, and we're going to see how low the scan tool gets compared to our thermometer here in the vents. Scan tool's down to 165 degrees. We're actually showing about 70 right there, still dropping. And probably what I'm suspecting, you'll never see. So see right here where it says air conditioning compressor clutch status and it says engaged, it will probably never disengage. What you normally will see is whenever the temperature here gets to about 38 to 40 degrees, it will tell the compressor to disengage. And that's how it regulates the temperature. You typically don't want to go below about 38 degrees on your AC because you run the risk of starting to freeze up your evaporator. So it wants it to disengage around 38, 39, 40 degrees, and then it'll re-engage at about 41 or 42. And that's on these newer vehicles, that's what controls the cycling of the compressor. Used to, there was a low pressure switch out on the accumulator or the dryer, and it went all by the low pressure of the system. But now most cars use a evaporator temperature sensor, which is probably actually a better way to do it, in my opinion. And you see on the scan tool, we're still showing about 161. So, I mean, it's clearly, that temp sensor is clearly not reading right. we're down real close to 30 degrees. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let it run for a little while, and then I'm going to show, I'll stick the borescope into the heater box, and we will see if the evaporator is actually freezing up. It might take a little while, so I'm not going to sit here and bore you with it running, but I'll show you what happens whenever the evaporator starts freezing up. And just so you know, I mean, a lot of people might think, man, I want 32 degree air, and you know, in a perfect world that would probably be great. But the problem is, once the evaporator starts freezing up, you won't feel no air. Air won't be flowing through it anymore. So one symptom also is your airflow will start getting lower and lower. You'll get nice cold air. You'll start noticing, how come my air is not flowing out of the vents the way it was? And you'll get just very little air coming out of the vents. And you'll either see ice crystals, sometimes you'll see fog, and what you have is your evaporator completely frozen. I've seen evaporators completely frozen like a solid block of ice, and it completely restricts any airflow going through the evaporator. So that's what happens whenever your evaporator freezes up. And you can see right here, we're hitting about, I mean, we're right at about 30 degrees. Compressor's still engaged. It should not be engaged. We're showing 161 on the scan tool. We're actually below 30 degrees now. We're probably at about 28 to 29 degrees. So that's what the problem is with having an evaporator freeze up on you. Now, the good thing is it tells you that the compressor, the condenser, everything else is able to get some nice cold temperatures. All you need to do is figure out how to get the system to cycle, and in this case it's going to be a temp sensor. Yeah, we're well below. We're probably around 26 degrees. Evaporator's in the process right now of freezing up, and the evaporator, depending on how much humidity is in the air on any given day, determines how fast your evaporator will freeze up. The higher the humidity, the faster your evaporator will freeze up. High side pressure still looking good. We're down to 159 degrees on the scan tool. You can see that the compressor is still engaged. It is not cycled off. We're coming down, getting close to about 25 degrees. I still feel air coming out. Now, if you're having this problem, one thing you can do is turn your blower on high and get air flowing through the evaporator even faster, and that'll prevent it from freezing up as quickly. It could actually prevent it from freezing up, period. And I'll show you where the temp sensor is on this Camaro, and we'll end up changing it out, and then we'll go back through this same test. But hopefully you can see where our temperature is. Coming down, getting close to 20 degrees. And like I say, don't think that that's a good thing, you know, because that's not going to last long. The evaporator's freezing up. Once it freezes up completely, you're not going to get no airflow, and you're gonna start realizing that you got a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the car off. We're at about 159 degrees on the scan tool. I'm going to show you how to access the temp probe, the evap sensor, and then I'll stick the borescope in there and see if we can see any ice yet, and then we'll change out that temp sensor. Okay guys, the temp sensor is right, I'm doing this blind, so hopefully you can see right here. And sometimes you can just turn it, yeah, with your hands. Other times you may have to use a pair of needle nose pliers. Sometimes you might have to take the connector off first, but so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick my borescope in there, and we're going to take a look and see if it's freezing up.
All right, guys, so I've got the Borescope in the hole. Let me see if I can get the camera. Got it going right in the temp sensor hole. You can just twist that out, don't even have to disconnect the wire. And let me see if I can get a good shot of it. It's already started melting. You can literally see ice in the vent, or in between the fins, rather. I don't know how good that's coming through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn just the blower on, and we're going to see if we can watch it thaw out. Okay, what you're seeing going on there with the camera is there's literally drops of water. Hopefully you're seeing that water. There's drops of water hitting the lens of the camera. So since the compressor's not turning right now, I'm just blowing ambient air through the evaporator, and it's literally melting the ice. You can see how it's all wet right now. That's what happens when your compressor does not cycle and the evaporator freezes up. Anyway, so what we need is this right here, this temp sensor. Super easy fix. All right, guys, so I've got the temp chart here. I got this from emanuals.com, and this is a chart with temperatures and the related resistance that this temp sensor should have. So just to verify that this temp sensor is the problem, we're going to take us a multimeter, put it on resistance. Now, I don't know if this has reached complete ambient temperature yet. It's been out for about 5 minutes out of the car. We're going to say it's between 86 and 104 today. So we should probably be, I don't know, around 3 kilo ohm or so. You've got the nominal resistance, and you have a minimum and a max. So let's see what this is reading. I'm suspecting it's going to read way off. Make sure you're not touching the probes. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the number. It's 1.7 kilo ohms. 1.7 would put it at about 122 degrees. So like I say, we should be around 3 kilo ohms. So let me go get a new temp probe, and we're going to put a new temp probe in. All right, guys, got us a temp probe. This is the part number, OEM. And let's see what the resistance of this one is. Right at 2 kilo ohms for the new one. This one now has been sitting out quite a while. So let's see what it's showing. 1.6 kilo ohms. So let's put this one in and see if the compressor ends up cycling the way it should. And then put it back in the hole, and it's just a quarter turn, you know, to unlock it and lock it. So let me get this hooked back up real quick. And I'm just going to see if I can guide this into the hole, if I can find the hole. Since I'm trying to film this, I'm not, there's the hole right there. I'm not able to
see what I'm doing. Okay, I think I got it. All right. Okay, same deal. Okay, so instantly I can already tell that the evap temp sensor, we're at 64 degrees, 60, 59. That's about what this gauge is showing here, this thermometer. .53, so yeah, this is already looking better. I'll go ahead and rev it up, because what I want to see is the compressor clutch status go to disengaged. Whenever our temperature gets down to about 40-ish degrees, we should see the compressor disengage. So I'm going to rev it up a bit. We're at 44 degrees, which is matching what our thermometer is showing, 42.8. 41. Any second we should see a disengage on our compressor. Disengaged. Perfect. So we got 40 degrees here on our thermometer. We're at about 39.2. We disengaged. And yeah, at about 41 to 42, the compressor re-engaged. So what that's going to do is prevent the evaporator from freezing up, which is exactly what you want. Clutch should re-engage at about 41 or 42. I just heard it. So there you go. That temp sensor was about 20 bucks, 25. So pretty simple and pretty cheap fix. Anyway, this was a 2013 Camaro. And I've had to replace these temp sensors before. That's why I was kind of familiar with this issue. I had another Camaro that was blowing ice crystals out of the vents, and their complaint was that they would get nice and cold, start blowing ice crystals, and then it wouldn't cool anymore. And that's because the evaporator was completely freezing up. So this one was similar, except it was blowing fog, and that's just that's determined by the humidity and, you know, temperature outside and all that, whether it's going to blow ice crystals out or fog. Anyway, we're done. You guys take care.